At the fourth rope, journalist, activist, professor, and author Marc Lamont Hill appeared to take a blow to the head. Quincy Harris, the uploader of this video, spoke with Hill in the aftermath, who said, "I'm ready. Next time it's going to be me and him in the ring." Another angle may shed some light on its authenticity, if you know what I mean. Watch as Hill goes down. The wrestler commits a tap to his head. Hill gingerly collapses to the ground with his arm being placed right underneath his head to brace for impact. Take that for what it's worth. Now look, this dude, Marc Lamont Hill, used to confrontation.
I'm going to ask you to take a step back, please.
At one event, a woman pepper sprayed him.
Are Israel's interests much in line with the United States, much more so than Hamas?
Oh, they're very much more in line with the United States' interests. The United States' interests, friends, and enemies in the region, and Israel becomes the arm of the United States foreign policy in the region, which is why they have unequivocal, unwavering support of Israel. And quite frankly, supporting Israel as an American politician is like kissing a baby. It's the safest position to take. And of course, we want to protect Israel's right to exist. No one wants to see innocent Israeli lives lost. No one wants to see anything but the protection of Israeli lives. However, that can't come at the expense of Palestinian lives. And right now is an opportunity for the United States to exercise moral leadership and speak against this offensive siege that's being waged in Gaza. And that's my point. I don't want to see Israel lose its right to defend itself. I want to see Israel stop engaging in an offensive in Gaza. And also, it's important to say, and this is to Alan's point earlier, yes, Israel has a right to defend itself from outside threats, and he draws the comparison to what would you do if you were in the United States. But it's a very different circumstance. You can't, on the one hand, assume an occupation role and then treat it as a foreign power. Gaza is being occupied. The region is being occupied. You can't, on the one hand, occupy it and then treat it like a foreign territory, which is then launching threats against it. They have an international responsibility, according to Hague Regulations, Article 47, according to all sorts of international law, to treat Gaza very differently. That's the point.
Just wrong.
Alan?
Just wrong. That's just wrong. Israel ended its occupation completely in 2005.
That's untrue.
And between 2005 and 2007.
That's disingenuous.
No, it's absolutely true.
Well, let me respond.
Hang on, Alan. Why is it not true? Why is it not true?
It's not true. It's not true because there are international standards for occupation. They still control electromagnetic space, the airspace, the naval space, the population registry. Every single measure of occupation they meet, they satisfy all the conditions for occupation.
According to the United States government, Israel occupies Gaza.
Exactly.
He did not allow Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, to lie through his teeth on CNN in a video dated July 30th, 2014.
We turn now to look at the ongoing controversy surrounding CNN contributor and Temple University professor Marc Lamont Hill, nearly a month after CNN fired him for giving a speech at the United Nations supporting Palestinian rights.
So as we stand here on the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the tragic commemoration of the Nakba, we have an opportunity to not just offer solidarity in words, but to commit to political action, grassroots action, local action, and international action that will give us what justice requires. And that is a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you for your time.
That was Marc Lamont Hill speaking at the UN on the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people in November. Just one day later, CNN dropped him as a commentator after conservatives and pro-Israel groups such as the Anti-Defamation League condemned his comments, calling them anti-Semitic.
My conversation with CNN was relatively brief. I received a phone call, and I was told that the speech didn't match their values. I pressed a bit to find out what those values were or what part of the speech didn't match said values. I didn't get a clear answer. I didn't get an answer at all. Just the repeated refrain, "This doesn't match our values." At which point we concluded the call. There wasn't like a long, drawn-out argument. There was no antagonistic anything. They made a decision, and I moved on.
He was canned by CNN for being pro-human rights.
Can we not act like sports isn't connected to slavery? I mean, the NBA decided they were no longer going to use the word owner to talk about the people who own the teams. They're going to use the term governor instead. And white people, right on time, started white people and saying, oh my God, owners own things. I can't own my car. I can't own my house now. The world's going crazy. No, you can own things. You just can't own people. And yes, you're right. NBA owners don't go around saying, I own that player. They just act like it. Look at the NCAA. The NCAA is structured to exploit the labor of athletes. So by the time they get to the NBA, we've already normalized the idea that they don't deserve to have agency or control over their own lives or bodies. You had people like Donald Sterling with the Clippers who would walk through the locker room with his girlfriends and say, look at these black bodies while they were in the shower. You got Dan Gilbert writing letters to LeBron when he leaves Cleveland the first time, not acting like LeBron left the team, but like he left his plantation. That mentality, this idea that we get outraged whenever a player decides to go on his own and pick his own team like Kevin Durant did, or the idea that we get mad that somebody wants to make as much money as possible when in fact the owners make billions, enough to write those checks for the players who only get the millions. That logic says that we think we can control players whenever we want. That's a slave mentality. And the word owner doesn't change that, but it does reflect that. So this conversation we're having right now about why we shouldn't call them owners is part of a bigger conversation we have to have about how we have to stop exploiting athletes and see them as human beings instead.
And had this to say on the term owner in professional sports. Let me just say in conclusion, the fourth rope wrestling looks really cool. I'm not going to lie. They're celebrating artists. It's a mixture of wrestling and hip hop. They are going to bring it to different cities. At least that's what it looks like on the surface. And it looks like an intimate venue or intimate venues that they are picking for their first shows. Smoke DZA, I believe, is in on the promotional body. And if they do come to Chicago, I am all in. I would love to see this in person. Really good wrestling. Great music. Live performances. Feels like the energy is pretty good too inside those arenas. Whatever. So I am all in on it. For Marc Lamont Hill, here is where it gets pretty interesting. What are they going to say on that pod? What are they going to say to Marc Lamont Hill when he returns to that studio on Joe Budden's podcast? That is what I am really curious to see. Who is going to give him the most amount of you-know-what? Because I think he sold it. That's just me personally. I'm looking into this. I'm watching it over and over again. He sold it well. And maybe, even though I remember he said he tore his Achilles playing basketball and he was like done playing basketball after that. That was a few years ago. That's what happens when you hit 40, man. So I'm curious to see if he gets in there because maybe that's how they're selling it, knowing that he has such fanfare and popularity with one of the most popular and visited podcasts on JBP. So I actually think they're doing it right, to be honest with you. I think this is the correct way to go. So we'll see if Marc Lamont Hill gets in the ring. If he does, I think I would watch.